Well, here we go. We're live. What's up, everyone? Tim Stoddard here. This is the first ever version of my live stream. I'm going to start a weekly show every Thursday where I'm going to pick a couple topics, a couple news topics, usually about marketing, business, multiple streams of income, tech, and whatever I really feel like talking about at any given moment. And we're going to do this every week. We're going to see how this goes. I'm really excited about this. I'm still learning how to live stream and mostly how to do the technology. I think I need to create another screen on this side so that I can have my live chat set up at the same time that I'm actually streaming so that I can interact with everybody. Let's see exactly how this goes. Can I create the live chat over here? I think so. Since this is my first one, I'm going to try my best not to take this too seriously. And since I'm anticipating this being a little bit of a clusterfuck, we're just gonna deal with it. Time that I'm actually streaming so that I
Oh
can.
shit.
Here I am looking at myself. Okay, so here's the chat. Yeah, if anybody interacts with me and they see what I got going on here, then sounds great. But without further ado, let's dig into it, man. I'm excited about this. All right, so the first story, I thought this was really fascinating. Buzzfeed sells Hot Ones for $82 million. Why do I think this is fascinating? Well, a couple of reasons. BuzzFeed list posts, and it was so. Uh-oh, do we have our first technical difficulty? Oh, here we go. No, we're good. And you could have these list posts, and it would be like fucking cat memes and all types of hysterical shit. And BuzzFeed really just crushed it. They were so good. They basically invented the idea of like the viral tagline, the viral headline, right? And they put all of their eggs in this viral Facebook basket. And since Facebook has changed a lot over the last 10 years, BuzzFeed has been unable to keep up. They tried to become more serious in terms of like an actual journalistic standpoint. I remember they were talking about really wanting to compete with the New York Times and stuff like that. There was this fascinating interview that I watched with the writer of The Wire. God, I forget that guy's name. He was a journalist, and I remember him talking about how important like journalistic standards were going to be and how the internet could really screw up journalism. And his idea was that the line that he had in this press release was, "You don't want BuzzFeed creating your news." And that's basically what happened. So I'm setting that up as a little bit of context to say that BuzzFeed is basically collapsing, and it looks like they're starting to sell for parts. So what do we got here? BuzzFeed announced a deal to sell First We Feast, the studio behind the popular YouTube chicken wing eating celebrity talk show Hot Ones, for 82.5 million in cash to a group of investors. So that's insane. BuzzFeed got a check for $82.5 million. The consortium of buyers includes First We Feast founder Chris Schonberger. I don't know if you guys have ever watched Hot Ones. It's hysterical. Chris is like the guy that's always behind the camera. And Hot Ones host Sean Evans. So it looks like these two guys actually bought the rights to the show, which I think is pretty cool. Alongside podcast media company Crooked Media, Rhett and Link's Mythical Entertaining, and Soros Fund Manager. This is super interesting. An investment firm founded by billionaire George Soros. This was the thing, this comment right here by Samantha Tomaszewski. Sorry, Samantha, if I fucking butchered your name. As a former BuzzFeed employee, it's been a bummer to see the company go down this path. It was such an innovating and exciting place to work in the 2010s. It was my dream job. But now, in light of financial situation, a reported 124 million in debt, which is wild. So, what do we got going on here? 124 million in debt. Okay, so it's an article from Adweek. Um, BuzzFeed is facing a $124 million debt crisis. When was this written? December 2024. So this is recent. Yeah. So BuzzFeed is just collapsing. Um, it's a shame. And you know what? Let's look at I mean, my goodness. And I guess on the news right here that they sold First We Feast, it's going down even further today. I mean, look at this. Look at how high and mighty BuzzFeed was riding. And then it's just been a complete collapse ever since. It's a shame. Um, I'm excited for the two founders of the show, Chris Schonberger and Sean Evans. I think this is like this is going to continue to be a success, but also I think this is like a real story of of where we're seeing media right now. There's no gatekeepers anymore. You can just create your own show, which is essentially what they did. You don't even have to have the kind of production value that these guys do, although, it's still minimal production value if you compare it to like a real studio, like I don't know, like a CNN or some shit like that. And you can buy your own company back for $82.5 million. Um, Absolutely insane. I'm excited to see where this goes. I think this is just what do you call it? The changing of the tide. These these traditional media companies, and it's really insane to think of BuzzFeed as a traditional media company in that way because they are still pretty new age, but this was 15 years ago. It's just a different world now. So we're gonna keep our eye on this. I'm excited to see what happens here. I'm excited for Sean Evans. Um, Sad for BuzzFeed, but they really fucked up. All right, this next story I'm throwing in here just because I think it's fun. Most people know that I'm a typical aggressive Philly Eagles fanatic, and it is reported that the Eagles are now the most valuable NFL team with a record of 8.3 billion valuation following a sale of a minority stake. Why is this important? Well, because the Dallas Cowboys have typically been the NFL's most valuable team, and fuck the Cowboys. That's why. Eagles are so much cooler than the Cowboys. They always have been. The Cowboys are a joke. They're a laughing stock. We all hate them, and for good reason. Well, actually, that's not true. Everybody hates us, but we don't care about that. Nicole Williams. I don't know who you are, Nicole. I wish I could source you a little bit better. The Philadelphia Eagles' record breaking $8.3 billion valuation is a reminder that behind every successful sports franchise is a combination of innovative leadership, sharp business strategy, and entrepreneurial vision. Um, this is very true. And the reason it's true is because the owner of the Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie, he's very, very brilliant. He's created, I mean, the Eagles are always had a little bit of a, what do you call it, advantage, simply because of like the Philly passion. Everybody knows about this. We really, really love our sports teams. And so, like, he bought into a market that was already a little bit more ravenous for content and sports and merchandise than, like the Minnesota Vikings or something like that. Nonetheless, he is really brilliant. Um, and he's a great owner. Like, we we love him. All right, let's what happens when we view this full news story. Hold on. Am I live? Is my comments yet? Hey Tim, is this live? Yes. Expert launch. Thank you for the comment. I'm still trying to figure out how to get the comments on like my window. There's gotta be a way to like pop out chat. Oh, wait a minute. We got this? I think we got this. I think I can close this down now, right? Did I still pop out the chat? I did. All right. We figured it out. Yes, expert launch, my friend. This is live. Starting a new show. Every Thursday, we're going live. We're going to talk about news stories. This is the first ever issue, first ever version, I guess you would call, first episode. Um, anyway, there's nothing really important to say here other than I love this. This makes me really, really happy. And go Birds. We're fucking winning the whole thing this year. You heard it here first. All right, on to more serious content. This is really where the show begins. The Hustle dropped an article, was it this morning? Yesterday. My wife told me about this. And I think this is very fascinating because it speaks to. Hey, what's up, Boris? Excited to hang out with you too, man. I'm excited to figure out how to. So, can I do this where I like. I thought I could like pop the comment out so it sort of goes on the bottom of the screen. Um, Start a Q&A, start a poll. Nope. All right. What's up, Boris? Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for always following my newsletter and for the conversation. Really appreciated it. Anyway, this is a really fascinating article, and I wanted to highlight it because it speaks to something that is really in the tech and marketing zeitgeist right now, which is AI. So let me just give you a little bit of a breakdown of the story. Did Spotify Wrapped miss the mark this year? Spotify Wrapped is one of these like real quintessential success stories where it takes advantage of emotion and virality and people wanting to share about themselves on the internet, which creates like this user generated type content. It's always been highly successful. Everybody looks forward to it every year. I look forward to it. I love Spotify Wrapped. It's a blast. And this year it's been pretty much a failure. And I want to talk about why. This is really important. Okay, so don't need to read that. Yet when my this is written by Juliet Bennett Ryla from The Hustle. Thank you, Julia. This is a great piece. Yet when my Spotify Wrapped dropped, it placed a different Springsteen song in my top five, a song I knew I didn't play more often than several others this year. Turning to where else Reddit, it seemed I wasn't alone. Several users expressed disappointment in Spotify Wrapped's lackluster presentation, confusion at weird genres like Pink Pilates Princess and Vampire Football Rap, suspicion that their listening data was off, including top artists they never listened to. So, what happened? This is so interesting. Users speculate that Spotify's reliance on AI, combined with layoffs that impacted 25% of its staff, had something to do with it. I want to highlight this part here reliance on AI. Well, let me keep going. Instead of beloved features, Spotify partnered with Google on a poorly received wrapped AI podcast featuring two bots rambling about users' listening habits. Some users claimed theirs were wrong or offensive. Glenn McDonald, a former Spotify engineer, told Business Insider that Wrapped has always been a marketing exercise. He'd pushed for more human elements, but suggested that after layoffs, remaining engineers didn't bother. Yet, if what Spotify wants is social media virality, it succeeded. This year's Wrapped scored a record number of individual shares per a company spokesperson. All right, so there's a couple things to unpack here. Um, AI is not a human. And there's a lot of talk every day on the internet about AI overtaking everything. And I just really don't think this is going to be the case. The expression that I love is AI is not going to take your job. A person using AI is going to take your job. I use AI every day. Yet, in my newsletter, the feedback that I always get from people is how much they appreciate the personalization of my content. Like I wrote this piece, I got a ton of feedback from it. I publish my newsletter every day. Obviously, sign up at timstods.com. That's what we're doing here. And it is always the articles in which in which I put the most of myself that that get the most buzz. And so I think what happened here with Spotify Wrapped is that they took a shortcut. They're trying to use AI to lower costs and to basically manufacture humanity, and we're just not there. I i mean, who knows the future, right? Everybody's having this conversation within themselves, but I really find it hard to believe that AI is going to replace humanity. And I think it's going to go the other way. The more AI and LLMs become integrated within our society, the more humanity is going to matter. And so where am I going with this? If I'm creating a new business right now, I'm going against AI. I'm creating personalized events. I'm doing personalized workshops. You know, a great example I use, my wife is she's like a fitness instructor. And when we first moved to Denver, she just rounded up this group of women that would do workouts in the park every Saturday. And it was like instantly a huge hit. Within a month, it was just like, there's so many people coming to this thing. There's like huge groups of women and moms and just other women looking for community that would just show up and do workouts in the park. And you can't replicate that with AI. In fact, I think those workouts in the park are going to be even more critical and more, not necessarily valuable, but like where people implicitly put their value, like what they mark as important to them. I think personalization is the differentiating factor, because if everybody has AI, then nobody has it, right? There's nothing. If you're going to use it to try to create shortcuts, what you're going to get is this version of Spotify Wrapped, right? This beloved, yearly event that so many people looked forward to and would share with their friends that turns into a little bit of a flop. So interesting. And I think we're going to continuously see this more and more. All right, what's my live chat doing? Thanks, man. Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what we were just talking about, Boris. Newsletter stands out because it's personalized. Man, how do I get this thing? Can I just pin this here? I can't. That's not going to work. Wait, maybe I can do it this way. Okay. Okay, this could work. Yeah. I'll get better at this, I swear. All right. For the fourth and final story, I want to talk about live streaming. Oh, wait a minute. I had some data pulled up for this. Let me open up my ChatGPT. I am doing this show because live streaming is becoming more and more a part of how people consume content. And what's fascinating about live streaming is that everybody thinks of these big streaming platforms like Amazon and obviously Netflix and Disney Plus and Apple TV and all that stuff. And you leaving? Okay, love. Bye. See you soon. And most people forget to incorporate YouTube. And I'm just fascinated with this. I am fascinated with the direct to consumer ism that we're seeing, whatever the word is here. People can just go directly to their audience and bypass the gatekeepers, including, the Netflixes of the world. And we can just do it directly through streaming platforms like YouTube and Twitch. So estimated live streaming market value in 2025 to 2028 is expected to be $223 billion by 2028. I fully anticipate and plan on like getting in on this trend, obviously, which is why I'm doing this weekly live stream. And there's something else that I thought was like, hey, Mark, yeah, man. Um, let me finish this point, Mark. I'll talk to you. And there's something else which I think is really, really fascinating about live streaming. I'm gonna answer Mark's question real quick. How do I do this? I know there's a way where I can like pin this to the bottom. I'll figure this out. Mark is saying, I know I always ask, but I'm hanging out for the directory course. Um, Here's what I'm going to do, Mark. No bullshit. No bullshit this time. I really mean it. And this is for anybody else listening or anybody else watching this that wants to get involved with the high level content that I create. I am not going to create courses just because I think they're kind of lame. I'm going to put everything into my membership. This membership is going to go up in price pretty substantially because I'm going to do like weekly workshops soon. I want to do something different as opposed to just creating like sort of lame content. Um, if you want to get involved, Mark, if anybody wants to get involved, I know I'm not trying to be like overly salesy here, but this is where all the action is going to happen on my newsletter and on my Substack. I'm just going to create like a whole different channel which I'm basically going to put on the navigation bar, which is going to separate the free daily newsletter from like my weekly workshops that I'm going to do. And yes, directory building is going to be a part of that. So join if you'd like to. If not, brother, I totally understand. There's no pressure. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to play a clip right here. Um, this was Prop G Markets. It's every Monday. It's a podcast that I really enjoy. These two have like a great dynamic. This is Scott Galloway. He's uh he's just kind of a dude. But this is actually the reason why I like the show a lot. This guy Ed Elson, he's like this young 24-year-old kid. I think he went to where'd he go? Fucking Stanford, I think. He's British, so he just sounds smarter than everybody else. And and he has a take on streaming and content creation. You have to understand the context a little bit. I'm not going to play this whole entire sequence, but more or less OpenAI, they've been doing a 12-day streaming event where they're introducing their products And through this, they're kind of creating a investor deck and like an investor's report. And it's really interesting too because what's the guy's name? He's the CEO of Spotify. Sean something? Oh yeah, Daniel Ek, that's right. Um, he does his investor reports straight through Instagram now. He doesn't even do press releases. He just puts his phone on his desk and does a live stream on Instagram and then just gives his data to his investors. And so that's the context here. And Ed has just been really interested in this idea that the information direct to consumer is expanding from just content creators, and even like businesses and corporations are taking advantage of this like direct to audience approach. And he's talking about the 12 days of OpenAI. It's a terrible name. It's, I don't know, it's whatever. He's talking about this approach, and then he adds on to it a little bit. So I'm going to play this clip. All right.
Yeah, something I would add on to that I've been thinking a lot about recently in content. As I've said to you before, I've just become fascinated with YouTube. And I look at what's happening with our YouTube channel, which is growing enormously. I mean, we're getting like hundreds of thousands of views on our videos now. And I've been sort of wondering, why is that? Like, why would you opt to watch this podcast on YouTube versus just listen to it in your headphones? And I
Fascinating question, right? Why? Why would you watch a video with two guys in, Scott Galloway's in a hotel room right now? There's nothing special about the video production. Like, why would you watch a podcast when you could just listen to it?
don't think it's because people want to see our faces. I don't think that adds that much to it. I was thinking about this. I think the big differentiator with YouTube and with live streaming is the comment section. I feel like having a comment section is just an entirely different experience because you get to share your own opinions, you get to hear what other people think, and suddenly the experience transforms from not just consumption, but it actually becomes like a social experience. And so what I'm finding with live streams right now, my
Yeah, that's fascinating to think about, right? And it's so true. Um, I had a segment in the show earlier about the Eagles, and I love watching Eagles content. And there's streamers that dissect the press conferences. And if you think about it, it's kind of fucking ridiculous, right? Like there's people there's people making a video of themselves watching a video of a press release, and then they go through it and they react, right? It's like a different form of a reaction video, which I guess is something that I'm making right now. Here I am making fun of it while I'm doing the same thing. And why is that intriguing, right? Why is that intriguing? Well, it's because there's conversation around it. When I walk my dog, I go for a walk every afternoon. I walk Alice, and I put on a podcast, and I listen to Prop G Markets pretty often. And that's great. But I'm alone, and I'm just consuming the content within my own mind and my own thoughts. But here, there's an entire conversation. There's replies to the video, there's replies of replies to the video. There's an entire like community of people going back and forth with each other. And it's so fascinating to think that live streaming is generating this whole different way that we can communicate with each other, which is like an asynchronous viewing party. They go on a little bit more, and I think there's another really cool analogy here that I want you guys to hear.
take is it feels like live streaming is the comment section on steroids. Like you're getting to participate in the content with a group of people who are watching it at the same time. And I'm starting to think that any form of content that doesn't figure out a way to interact with the audience in a meaningful way where the audience can comment and have an opinion and engage interactively, I'm starting to think that any of that content is really just behind the ball.
It's such an interesting point. You just inspired an analogy, and I don't know if it's the correct one,
This is a really cool analogy. This really stuck out to me.
but the reason you go to Premier League games, during COVID, they didn't have fans, or they had a limited number of fans. And they're just, you watch it on TV and it's the same players and it's the same rules in the same game. And it just fell flat without the fans in the stadium. And I wonder if this is effectively a game, traditional video now is a game where there's no fans. And that is, when I was on this AI ROI live stream, I occasionally would stop and read a comment, and we tried to interact with the audience, and it just had such a nice vibe. And the thing I love about Premier League is you go and the fans are just amazing. It creates they're so engaged in everything, screaming and booing at every little thing, and, making fun and of people, and they're hilarious. But to your point, maybe that's what this is. Maybe the next level of kind of interaction and dopamine entertainment is, all right, you have two streams. One stream is the content, and the second stream is the fan reaction to the content. Because
Did you hear that? One stream is the content, the other stream is the fan reaction to the content. Isn't that so fascinating? And like, look what's going on here. Man, I got to tell you, it was this bit that I was listening to on my dog walk Tuesday that just made me decide I got to start a weekly streaming show, because I am creating content, but then there's like a second stream, which is us chatting. Currently right now, Boris, Mark, Tim, it's not like a huge audience, but we're all having an interaction together. Like there is the interaction, which is the fans watching the show. And then obviously it's this whole episode has been like live sports analogies, right? But part of the reason why I love going to Eagles games so much. I live in Denver. I got to fly home to Philly every year, stand outside in the freezing cold in December to watch the Eagles play the Cowboys every winter. Um, th- that is like that is the fun part. It's not watching the game. It's being in the stands with my dad and shivering with fucking people and like high-fiving strangers. That is the actual fun part, and that's what we're doing. I'll finish this bit before I wrap up.
I noticed myself doing today on this live stream was occasionally when someone put something really interesting or funny or asked a question in the chat, I would sort of selectively pull stuff out and highlight it.
And think how fun that is for the viewer. I mean, it brings on a whole different dimension. The idea that you're watching the content and the guy who you're watching is actually interacting with you in real time. You compare that to just watching like Jimmy Fallon, where they have these like very kind of awkward interviews, and it sort of feels like you're watching like robots.
It's not just awkward; it's manufactured, right? Like what always cracks me up is when they have these bits on Jimmy Fallon or something like that, and it's like they must have practiced what they wanted to say beforehand, and they went through it, and they have the whole thing kind of scripted. And it's not to say that the podcast and streaming don't have some kind of agenda and like don't have a structure of the show, but it's totally different. It's live community interaction.
Put on a production. It's so much more human, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. It's sort of, this company.
That's it. I don't know how to wrap this show up. I still got to figure out how to transition back and forth from like being here with my face in the corner to having my face cover the full screen. I'm pretty sure there's like a short code I can do, which will go back and forth on my scenes through OBS so that as I close out this show, I'm not just having my screen with like my face up here in the corner or something like that. But thank you so much for watching. We're going to do this every Thursday. And by the way, I had no idea that Pat's show, Boris, you just said Pat Flynn did this with the income stream during COVID. That's what his show is called, because that's what my fucking show is called. I was thinking to myself, like, what do I name my show? What do I name this show? And I have right here on my channel, like multiple income streams. And so I just looked at it right before I hit start streaming. I was like, oh, the income stream. That makes perfect sense. Um, all right. Well, sorry, Pat. I'm sticking with it. I don't think you copyrighted it, and if you did, I don't know. Whatever, he's gonna have to sue me. That's the name of my show, the income stream. So thank you, Pat Flynn, for giving that to me. You're welcome, Tim. You're welcome, Brett. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you so much. And we'll do this again next week. Please subscribe to the newsletter, timstods.com. If you want to become a paid subscriber, you can do so at timstods.com/subscribe. I got some like epic shit coming up. I've been planning it for a while. I'm not fully launching it until January, but it's going to be pretty dope. So appreciate you guys, and we'll talk again next week. See you.